Guess who got brands talking? Brandlive.co.za.
Well, good afternoon to KREATIF, playing on Brand SA Live, and welcome to everybody listening to our program. So today, as you all know, we talk about all things art, but today specifically, we're looking at curation. Now, as my guests, I have Candice Allison, the director of the Bag Factory in Johannesburg, who recently started taking over, and Wayne Matthews, curator and artist. So, welcome to both of you.
Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure. So, I'm going to start off, Candice, sorry. Curation means a lot of things these days, because you have wine curators, you have curators for interior design, all sorts of things. In your mind, what is a curator?
It depends on who you're asking. It depends on what kind of curator. If you're asking a curator who works in a museum, they would be a traditional curator who looks after a collection and interprets that collection for the public, researches it. If you're asking a public art curator, then their remit would be curating art in public spaces. If you ask an independent curator, they would probably be working more one-to-one with artists, proposing shows for different spaces.
And you, Wayne?
Well, I think Candice has covered just about everything, to be honest. It's traditionally museum looking after work, choosing how to display it, present it to the public. But these days, it is kind of a much more diverse field of operation.
So it was almost bringing down what historically was perceived as a caretaker of a collection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that care being quite a broad kind of spectrum of things, including exhibition.
Yeah. Okay, so Candice, back to you.
Yes.
You guys have a special program running currently, and you're waiting for people to apply. Can you please tell us about this project?
So this is the curatorial development program that we try to run every year. We've received funding from Department of Arts and Culture to run this program. So it covers a 5-month mentorship with an aspiring curator. The deadline for applications is 28th of September, and the start date is the 1st of November.
Okay, but not everybody can apply for this, particularly because it's for young curators.
Yeah, so the age limit's 35.
And what else would make someone eligible to participate?
Probably not already working in a full-time job as a curator.
Okay.
So a part-time curator or an independent curator, someone who wants to develop their skills further, who wants to curate an exhibition that isn't necessarily commercially focused. So we're giving that kind of freedom to curators.
Okay, and does applicants need to have any academic background?
No, it would be preferable if they had some knowledge of contemporary art, because they have to send a proposal for an exhibition. So, and I mean, we focus on contemporary art at the Bag Factory.
Yeah.
So that's what we would expect them to be applying with.
Okay, and then what do people need to submit if they are applying?
So a single PDF
Containing?
with a CV, a portfolio if you have one, a exhibition proposal that would include the list of artists that you'd like to work with, how you would like to explore the exhibition format, the themes. Yeah.
Okay, and then if you succeed,
Yes.
well, first of all, how many people would you take on in this program? Only one
curator.
person.
Yes.
And obviously, if whoever succeeds, what do they get out of it to make this exhibition happen?
So we give them a monthly stipend. We expect them to come 1 day a week to the offices. They get a stipend to cover some of their living expenses. And then there is a budget to realize an exhibition at the Bag Factory in our gallery.
Okay. Now, before we go any further, tell us a bit about the Bag Factory, because obviously for the three of us, we know about the Bag Factory and we know the long history that it has, particularly in developing young artists and maintaining a particular standard in how artists have grown. So please tell us a bit more.
So the Bag Factory was founded in 1991 by Dr. David Kulawani and Robert Loder, and it was supported by a group of artists at the time, like Pat Martloa and Diane Hislop, and Penny Siopis was also one of the early artists.
Yeah.
And it was founded before the end of apartheid. It was a space where artists of any color or background could come and work together and exhibit together. And it started as a project workshop space and then developed into being artist studios. So we got 15 artists in studio, and we have 2 visiting artist program studios where we host artists from internationally from around the world, and they come for between 2 to 3 months.
Okay, but you also have a close connection with the Absa Atelier Award.
Yes, so we administer or we partner with different organizations for a multitude of awards. There's the Cassia Wells Award, which is in partnership with Strauss & Co. and Everard Reed. The Absa Atelier, they give their first Merit Award winner a 3-month residency at the Bag Factory, fully funded. That covers flights, accommodation, living expenses, studio materials, everything. And then at the end of their residency, they have a solo exhibition at the Absa Gallery.
Okay, but there is also a restriction for that award, if I'm not mistaken, because the L'Atelier competition is pretty much a continental competition where Absa or Barclays Africa has a footprint in the country.
Yes.
And your residency is geared for artists not residing in South Africa, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't think that is the specific criteria, because they open the award up to all the countries where they have a presence. And then they have a selection committee that choose who wins what award. And it just so happens that we always get an artist from another African country. We've had Gideon in the past. Upper. Yeah, we've had... well, the new winner is Stacey Gillian Abe, so she'll join us next year.
Well, I have to brag a bit. I have a Gideon Upper work.
Fantastic.
No, but I mean, in terms of what you guys do, you do a phenomenal job in terms of nurturing artists, because I've known quite a couple of the artists coming through, and I have to say I was studying in 1990, and I'm giving my age away, so I'll stop right there, and we had someone talking about the Bag Factory, and it was such an exciting program running. I'm still so happy that it is going.
27 years.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Now, you've been in the job now for
3.5 months.
So tell us a bit about where you come from.
I actually relocated from Cape Town.
Mm-hmm.
I was working as an independent curator while I was there, and I worked before that at the New Church Museum, which was a private contemporary art museum, which was running from 2013 until the end of 2016.
Okay, so just you're talking about a private art museum.
Yes.
Can you put that in a bit of a context for us, just so we have an idea?
It was founded by a private collector who had a substantial collection of contemporary South African and African art, and rather than having the work sit in storage, he decided to open a museum to showcase his art to the public for free.
I wish more collectors would do that, because I know there's some wonderful collectors with some brilliant work.
More collectors are doing it. I mean, Zeitz has opened in Cape Town, the Norval Foundation.
And someone like Jack Ginsberg donating his Battis prints and his artist book collection, which is the biggest in the Southern Hemisphere, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, that's also really phenomenal. But in terms of just getting back to people that might be interested, there is an age restriction if you want to apply.
There is. It's 35.
It's a bit ageist, don't you think?
It's older than me. So. It's for young aspiring curators who haven't had opportunities yet to sort of work on their ideas outside of commercial constraints or institutional constraints.
No, I'm actually joking because that was one of the...
You wanted to apply?
Yes. No, but in terms of the Atelier competition, there's an age restriction as well.
Oh,
and
yes.
during my days in the corporate world, I had so many more mature artists asking, but why are you being ageist? And unfortunately, that is pretty much what we are, or well, what programs are geared for. It's either geared for level of experience or a particular age, because you can't open it up to everybody. Now, you've also applied for your PhD and got accepted.
Yeah.
Daunting task.
It is, but it's sort of something I've always wanted to do. I am not a career academic, so for the university I think it's interesting to not have someone who's studying full time. I have a job and I'm studying as well. But for me as a practicing curator, I can't see any other way of doing an academic degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be practice-based.
Okay, so in terms of your own curatorial practice, just tell us a bit about what your interests are, what you would look at, just so we can get an understanding, or our listeners can get an understanding of how a curator functions.
So my practice is influenced by the artists that I meet and the artists that I work with. It's understanding what issues are urgent to them to explore within a contemporary context. So it would usually be socio-political. I've worked with Curation18, I've worked with Tanya Peterson in Cape Town and Buhlebezi Swani. And some of the group shows that I have worked on with other curators would be looking at how historic art ties in with the contemporary. How can we view the contemporary in light of our past?
So in essence, it's almost looking at works by Via Kutzer, his landscapes, very old South African artist who made these incredible landscape paintings, but talking from a colonial point of view with the wide open spaces, and then how it's contextualized with one of the township painters that dealt with that sort of understanding. So it's almost juxtaposing the two particular views.
Yeah, and how we view space and geography and community. And a colonial artist would look at a landscape and see an empty space ready to conquer, whereas a local artist would be expressing their daily life, the people they see, where they live, their experiences that they encounter.
Okay. So are you working on any projects at the moment?
Well, at the Bag Factory, we're always working on projects. We are preparing for our annual fundraiser, which is a salon sale, which will happen at the end of October.
Okay.
It's giving me sleepless nights already. And then independently, I'm working on a exhibition that I curated of Curation18's work for Goodman Gallery. It's traveling to Sweden.
Fantastic.
And I'll open at Kalmar Kunstmuseum next month.
Cool.
So that's exciting.
So if people would like to know more about the Young Curatorial Project, I do need to state that it is shared on the KREATIF Facebook page.
Yes. They can look at our website, bagfactoryart.org.za. The details are there. We've been sharing it on our Facebook. It says who's eligible, everything that you need to send in to apply. And there's just over a week left.
Yes. So
apply, send in your applications.
Well, if it would make any difference to any young artists or young curators, if I had these opportunities when I was age appropriate, I would have grabbed them with two hands. Because
there's so few of them that you have to, and you can't say that you weren't. What's it about buying a lotto ticket? You can't win if you weren't in it. You didn't have a ticket, so.
In terms of curation, it's becoming, it has become one of those seminal things that is an important aspect of the art world and how shows function and important shows function. So, if you can apply, please apply. And if you want to find out more, you can look at the Bag Factory's Facebook page, KREATIF's Facebook page. So please apply. Okay. Now, Wayne, How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. And yourself?
Good. Now, and I've known Wayne for quite a long time, from his days in PE, working at Underculture.
Oh, I actually never worked at Underculture. I curated their first exhibition.
Okay.
I'm using scare quotes in the background here. And then went on to work at a small artist community center called RTC. And then often collaborated with, assisted, and so on and so forth, but never formally on the payroll.
Okay, well, I just created the association because of my experience with the space. So please tell us a bit more about where you come from, everything you've done, because I know curation has not been the only thing.
Okay, well, I grew up in Johannesburg. Actually, lived a rather nomadic lifestyle. Ended up in Port Elizabeth around about 2001. Studied there under Jennifer Ord. Finished around about 2006, 2007, and then haphazardly first into academia. Was a lecturer, theory, painting, again with the scare quotes. Rather than painting, it became a kind of a mixed media studio, and then from there into private education, which I despised, and then meandered into curatorial world, the gallery world. Let's call it that.
Okay. Now, before we carry on with that, we unfortunately need to have an ad break, so we'll chat to you after the ad break.
Harnessing the power of talk radio. brandlive.co.za.
Have you ever thought about the power of social media? Social media has the power to make your business grow. Yeah. Why don't you let us manage your social media? Because our business is to see your business grow. Visit us at www.beastownmedia.co.za.
Making a bold statement yet blending into the surrounding suburbs of Melville, 27 Boxes is a realization of edgy design and practical implementation. A radical departure from the shopping malls of our generation, yet not a return to the high streets of our youth. 27 Boxes showcases the best of a shopping centre set in a garden, surrounded by the bohemian suburb that is Melville. 27 Boxes, shop, play, eat.
Whether you're an athlete or just going about your day-to-day business, use Turbo Freeze on the go for any pain relief or inflammation. It's the #1 pain relief formula. To find out more, log on to our website www.turbofreeze.co.za.
Hey Bonang, how are you?
Hi Tuli, look so beautiful. Hey, long time no see. What happened to your skin, by the way? The last time I saw you, you had a lot of blemishes and breakouts. It was so terrible, man.
Wow, thanks for that, Bonang. Luckily, I discovered DMK. Have you heard of DMK?
DMK? Who are they?
DMK is a paramedical skincare brand that specializes in all skin conditions. Would you like their number?
Yes, please.
I know you're not good at numbers, so let me give you their website address because your skin looks terrible. It's www.dmkskincare.co.za.
Live from 27 Boxes in the heart of Melville. This is brandlive.co.za.
So welcome back after that ad break, and we're busy talking to Wayne Matthews. So Wayne, you've come from PE, you've gone through academia where you lectured and did some curation at communal space?
Well, not a communal, so a community arts center. After I left the private academic world and jobs being what they are in the fine art industry, there was a small position open in Port Elizabeth for a gallery manager for RTC, like I said. They were established as a kind of a colonial, in 1918, as a kind of a colonial space for Sunday painters, watercolor society, and so on and so forth. Through the years, they attempted multiple times at kind of modernizing their vision. but it would only last for as long as said individual ran the space. So when I went in there, the building being a rather large building, I decided to keep the community, the developmental dimension of the space, kind of relegated to the top floor, where we had ample space to do such things, and then I ran the space below as a contemporary gallery.
Yeah.
In my view, the Eastern Cape in serious need of having contemporary work, to view and to understand how they could too fit into the greater dynamics of the South African art world.
So it's almost like creating a new space for people to start experiencing contemporary work or work being produced at these days.
While there were also studios, upstairs, and then I continued. The Watercolor Society still had their space upstairs, and then initiated. I was there for about 2 years. Initiated a kind of a process of purification. That sounds terrible. Of the board of. Are we back?
Yes.
Kind of a purification process of the board, where more relevant people that hadn't been associated or affiliated with the space for the last 40 years could take the reins and then kind of lead it into something that's a lot more healthy for the community. Also considering it's a university city, with quite a few good students that tend to disappear after their studies or become associated with with different spaces where they have to move to, since there's no supporting structure.
I mean, the Nelson Mandela University there does produce quite a lot of good students coming through, and they either need to move to Joburg or Cape Town or disappear, in essence, because that's where the market is at the moment. But before we carry on too long with that, you made a big shift 3 years ago.
Okay.
Where you came to Joburg.
Okay, yeah. Well, for me, it was kind of back to Joburg rather than to Joburg. I grew up here. It's a space I was familiar with. The Eastern Cape, in many ways, seemed kind of bearing down under its own kind of pressure. A small town kind of syndrome. And the only sensible thing was to move, like so many did before me, to one of the centres. And I decided Johannesburg, because it has a little bit less of a commercial flair when it comes to gallery spaces. Yeah.
I love Joburg because of the energy. There's just such a continuous rush. It's almost like a slumbering New York.
I haven't been, unfortunately. So I'll take your word on it.
But you're currently heading up Priest Art Gallery.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about how it came to be and what you guys are doing there at the moment.
Well, Priest is a post-production company situated in Cape Town. They had a little satellite suite up in Johannesburg, and Jan Smits right opposite the Goodman. And about 3 years or so ago, an artist approached the owner, considering they had free wall space, and they did a little impromptu exhibition, if you like. At that point, I was still working in the Eastern Cape from RTC, and we had started a process of moving for us, a rather large exhibition at that point called Fetish, as I recall. Fetish.
It was Fetish.
Yes. And for the final leg, we were looking for a space in Johannesburg to exhibit the collection of works. And then on the tail end of that, I was invited by the owner to run the space as a slightly more formal gallery. And by slightly more formal, I mean it's a rather hybridized space. We still have a post-production suite, but we have kind of spread ourselves out. It's run by myself and Alison Shaw. We've spread ourselves out somewhat like a virus.
Well, I think that is part and parcel what contemporary spaces need to do, because you can't necessarily just function as the old traditional gallery. And I mean, during First Thursdays, it's phenomenal to sit outside Priest specifically Because it's as if there's this wonderful hub, and it's not just the this sounds terrible, the run-of-the-mill shows, but it's quite challenging to curate in that space because of the space. But I think you guys are doing it incredibly well because your selection of artists are so specific.
Well, specific, I'm not entirely sure, and maybe this is just as kind of a semantic wobble. We work with other artists as artists, if you like, and I think our selection comes from, to a large extent, what we would like to see, relationships that we enjoy engaging with, and artworks that aren't necessarily commercial. I suppose this space would lend itself to a very commercial space, but in many ways we have, again, as kind of artist curators, and I use both those terms in kind of inverted commas, works that are challenging to some or other extent, or at least when we're dealing with a group exhibition, for example, to ensure that there's some kind of tension between the works we display and between the kind of don't want to say narrative either, but between the ideas caught up in these works and the artists that they represent. We also draw very widely from across South Africa, and on the rare occasion when we're afforded the opportunity internationally as well. Currently we have an exhibition on by an Oregon-based artist, comes from the Eastern Cape, strangely enough, but is not associated with South African art at all, whose name is James Reed. The exhibition is called Phenome Non-Logical Archive, and he works from the idiom of social sculpture. Did his masters under Shelley Sachs, and yes, it's an exhibition that's very, very close to my heart, and I would like to think, as an extension, close to the heart of Priest as well.
Yeah. So, if people want to find out more, where can they find information relevant to what you guys are showing?
Okay, well, the webpage, priest.co.za, or if they'd like something more direct, they can always contact me at wayne@priest.co.za.
And you also post regularly on your Facebook page,
We do.
which KREATIF regularly shares.
Thank you.
And then obviously first Thursdays is a wonderful time to pop by.
Yes.
Because the whole strip is activated and you can pop into multiple galleries and have a great time. So unfortunately, we need to wrap up for today. Thank you to my two guests. It's been wonderful, and I'm sure I'll have you guys in for another chat sooner or later. Thanks very much.
Yes.
Goodbye to our listeners.
Harnessing the power of talk radio. brandlive.co.za